We are live on Let's Talk on Parent Alienation. Today is Parent Alienation Worldwide Day, April 25th. This is recognized in every country, every city. People are fighting for their children to have equal rights during our court process in the divorce court. We tonight have a bunch of guests from all over the world, and I'm going to introduce you to them, and they're all going to say a shout out to their children. We're going to talk about what the effects we are dealing with and how we came to being an alienated, targeted parent. So I want to invite everybody out there, ask questions, anything you want, you could ask us. We are all here to help educate people. And we are no different than you out there. If you are an alienating parent, please listen. And I'd like to welcome all alienated parents, grandparents, alienated children, friends worldwide to tune in to Let's Talk. Tonight, we're going to start the show with my co-host, Wendy McDonald. Wendy and I have been advocating for many, almost over a decade together.
Wow.
And Wendy is an alienated mom and a grandma, but she did recently get her daughter back fully damaged. And it's a shame what she's going through dealing with our children. Wendy's children are 10 years younger than mine. And I could tell you, the older they get, the worse they get. So welcome. We have Al Neufeld. We have Antonella Giovanna. We have Eagerly Evolving Echo tonight, and we're going to have a few more guests joining in as we do Let's Talk. Wendy, thank you for helping me. I'm not very good right now because I have such a bad cold, so I'm not going to talk much. I'll let you do that while I click on our new guests. Thank you for all coming.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. It's such an important day that we spread so much education and awareness on the topic of parental alienation and show the effects and the damage that our kids are going through and what is going to happen to them prolonged as adults when they grow up. It's the mental illness, the change of identity, the lack of morals, the drug addictions, the lateness for work, the work ethics. The list just goes on in the mental health community and the mental health of what is happening to our children. And, you know, it's up to us as parents to create a safer and more stable environment and to raise strong, independent children that can stand on their own 2 feet when they're adults and are able to be self-sufficient and depend on themselves instead of living at home and depending on their parents when they become older and they've decided. And then the people who have brainwashed them and changed them end up not wanting anything to do with them when they become adults themselves. So then again, there's another trauma that's added to the system, which is abandonment for our children. So thank you very much, Mary, for shedding so much light on this topic. And like Mary has said, we've been advocating for quite a while. And I understand more than anybody about the generational pattern as I became an alienated mother. And I'm now an alienated grandmother and haven't seen my grandson since he was 4 months old. And he's now 7 years old. So let's get started. And where are we going to start? Who wants to start? We'll start with Al first. If you unmute your mic, please, and go ahead and share some of your story and talk with your kids and let's spread some love.
Yeah. Well, I actually tried, to be honest, I tried breaking up with my ex-wife 5 days after I met her. Continuously tried. She admitted to emotionally abusing me to our marriage counselor after years of trying to. After our first separation in 2013, when we were pregnant with our son, that's our second child. I finally separated for a bit, and then she kept begging me to take her back. We did marriage counseling, and she admitted to emotionally abusing me, neglecting me and the kids, sitting on her cell phone all the time. No matter what I tried doing, saying like, even our wedding day, I told her I just don't feel this is right, and played guilt trips and admitted to that later on. But after she finally let me have my divorce in 2015, when I finally put my foot down, and said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I am tired of feeling like I'm going to work, I'm coming home, cleaning, cooking because the kids are hungry, and you're on your phone. We got along very well. We actually co-parented great for about 7 months until the day she showed me her cell phone. And when I read the message, I was wondering first, why are you showing me a cell phone? She goes, read this. So I read this, and the message read, get him out of the beep picture. You love him or you get him out of the beep picture. And I looked at my ex-wife and said, if you date this guy, I first asked, who is this? And she goes, oh, a guy I met online who wants to go out with me. I was like, so if you date this guy, he's already showing that kind of red flag. He's going to be able to know he can control you. I was getting dates. My ex-wife always bragged about what kind of man I am on Facebook, flowers, foot massages, random gifts, all that stuff. And so I was getting dates. She got desperate to the point where she actually still dated this guy. 3 days after they met, I had a protection order. Also, in the morning, we were going to go do Christmas pictures. We were going to go together, but I was going to do with my kids separate, and she was going to do with the kids separate. And she goes, do you want to get ready? So, okay, I jump in the shower, I go shave, and in the shower, when I get out of the shower, they're gone. I messaged her, like, where are you? And wasn't getting responses. Like, okay, I'm getting worried. It's bad weather. Where are you? And 4 o'clock, November 17th, 2015. I'll never forget that day and time. It's when the police in St. Anne's, Manitoba showed up and told me if I didn't leave the place, I would be arrested. At this point, I was not aware that my ex-wife, who kept telling me and our marriage counselor, who quit marriage counseling us because of her, he acknowledged that. He even wrote that in a statement. She just would not get off her phone. There's no point. We weren't aware that my ex-wife did not put me on the lease when she was living in Manitoba housing, and she was also
sorry, don't mean to interrupt you, but can you hold that thought 1 second? I just want Mary to just introduce the new guest that has just logged on.
Yes, we have David David Schubert from Colorado, right, David?
That would be correct.
Yes. Yep. Okay. David is our last one to speak. So just give us time. Okay, David, but you could ask questions. Raise your hand if you have a question that you'd like to ask. And that way we don't overtalk each other.
So in other words, I'm back in school, got to raise my hand to ask the question to the teacher.
That's right. Get it done.
Welcome,
I
David.
really I don't know how to raise. I don't know how to raise the hand on this thing yet. So
that's all right.
I don't know if there is a settings.
I don't know either. Oh, Wendy, what happened to you?
Wendy just popped off.
So anyways, keep going, Al. Finish what you're ready to say.
And so, yeah, that was November 17th, 2015 at 4 o'clock. So the police showed up at our place and told me if I didn't leave, I'd go to jail. And I had no clue why. But the cop gave me his card and says, I will testify for you. He goes, he's pretty sure he knows what's going on. He wasn't allowed to tell me, but he said he had a bit of an idea what was going on. But it turns out I had a protection order put against me. And we never had the police called ever. Once we had a domestic disturbance, but it's because the neighbors called because they heard a woman screaming first and then a man. And so I told the cops when they asked me what was going on, I says, look, she's always leaving her stuff lying around. She sits on her phone, doesn't get off, and yells at the kids to stop touching her stuff. So I had my daughter asleep on me on the couch. I asked her she was right beside her son playing with her receipt book for her Avon, and she just wouldn't get off. So I said, I'm tired of her yelling at the kids because she won't put her stuff away. And she acknowledged that 100%. The cops even wrote me a statement later on regarding the fact. Anyway, and the day, that was 3 days after she met her boyfriend. 2 days after that, he moved in. I discovered later on, because I'm really good at this apparently, and this is why people do not like me, I can find out everything about everybody. I'm very good. I found out everything about the guy within the first couple of months. When he made the mistake of, I wasn't quite sure how his name was pronounced or spelled, but he ended up messaging one of my biggest witnesses, and was very rude. It was actually very disturbing. She actually called the cops on the guy. And so from with that, I found out a lot about this guy, including the fact that he had been charged for scamming 4 single moms, and found out where he's from. And even those officers out there says, you need to get this guy the picture. He is a serious problem and a big thief, con man. He's got over a dozen convictions, proven fact. anyway, so my ex-wife started keeping me from my kids. Went to court. I had to do supervise in a locked building for 4, which I did. And each time they wrote disturbing stuff that my kids were afraid to go home, showing up with bruises, and did not want to leave. I had to force them physically to get off of me, and then run to another room and close the door to get my kids to leave. And it's all documented by a third-party supervising agency. Then I was supposed to have every second weekend supervised, just 4 of those. And the first weekend we recorded. My ex-wife called the police, claiming that I was, making these gestures of threat to her boyfriend, and I was yelling and screaming. But yet the neighbors of my parents' place had also called the police, hearing a woman screaming the entire time. We showed them the video of my ex-wife violently assaulting my son, but the cops wouldn't do nothing. They just kept trying to harass me about it. So for 4 years, my ex-wife kept my kids from me. And then I kept trying to fight. She was supposed to hand them over outside the agency. And for years, I kept trying to fight. They kept setting me up. I got to the point where, as happy and joyful and outgoing I lived like a hobbit. I couldn't work. I was on disability assistance. The depression was bad. I went from about 130 pounds, physically pretty good shape, to 130 pounds, 230 pounds to 130 pounds in the first 7 months. I lost a lot of weight from depression. I could never stop crying. I couldn't even talk. As soon as I tried, I broke down in tears. And then, years later, when my ex-wife started to finally agree to hand them over again, we were, because I've been fighting for years. It was at the Winnipeg Child Access Agency again. The first thing my daughter said, the first thing after 4 years, is, "Dad, because we're dad and daughter, when we're alone, we can pull each other's pants down." I found some disturbing stuff out about the mom's boyfriend and how he got his daughter to lie about her stepdad. And I have the proof, 100%. You can't deny a physical when a child was not raped but sat in a courtroom, that even the judge called this child a liar. And but they start making a lot of false accusations. I actually, earlier was showing you guys, some of you may have not seen it, but confirmation from a group of people that are supposed to protect children, that my ex-wife, in fact, did put a hit on me. I've had 4 attempts on my life. Once in front of a cop, and he refused to do anything about it. Once while on the phone with the police, they ignored it, despite witnesses verifying. They go, "Oh, we can't verify." It's dumb. I was like, first of all, I know who that guy is. I used to hang out with him in 2016. And yeah, they've done nothing. I've had my kids violently kidnapped by my ex-sister-in-law. The police said that was kidnapping till the moment I gave my name. Then they hung up the phone. My phone audio records every conversation. Been doing that for years. I keep telling people, and I have the legal right, according to Canadian law. I can record any conversation as long as one of the people in the conversation is aware it's being recorded, and the person recording is a part of that conversation. So they have no choice but to take it in as evidence if I ever get my day in court. But my ex-wife, I was born out of country. I was born in South America. We came here when I was 11 months old. And what my ex-wife found out is a couple of my cousins were deported because the Harper government back in the 80s made a law. Everyone born between 77 and 80 had to redo their citizenships. So my ex-wife was constantly trying to keep me with a criminal record so that I would hopefully be deported, not realizing even the little time I have with my kids, it will never happen. They can't, because I have some entitlement to my kids, even if it is supervised. And so that kept failing. I finally got it back last year. I'm Canadian citizenship, Canadian again. And but every time I seem to get to work now, like I drive truck. Every time I get back to work, I always have to leave. There's more accusations. Recently, she's been accusing me of not feeding my kids. I never have food at home. I just sit in this chair smoking, swearing, and watching TV the whole time. And all these accusations that can I show a picture or no?
If you want.
I don't know if you guys can see that. That looks like food to me on the table, unless it's the Matrix, and you're probably just eating porridge. But
Can you back up a little bit and kind of just explain to us what was the marriage environment like inside?
It was bad. It was bad. Like literally. Well, I can't use my cell phone because I'm using it for this. But that was my ex-wife, 24/7, and I continuously beg, "Can you please get off your phone?" Her friends on Facebook, when it first came around, I always say, she'd be like, "Oh, look at my husband. He's such a great husband. Oh my God, he bought me the Marilyn Monroe Barbie from the 80s that I wanted." Like one time I surprised her with it. I like doing random gifts because to me that has more meaning than what's that called? Oh, it's Valentine's Day. I have to buy it for you, kind of thing, you know. And so I would did everything, but I constantly said, you know what? Can I have a divorce, please? You won't get off the phone. Give me a divorce. Oh, I hope you get that loan. I hope you get out of your debt. I said, yeah, but I paid it with my money. Look, we'll get off our phone. And the day we got married, I was trying to text her saying, look, this is just not right. I don't want to marry you. I'm not in love with you. You ignore me all the time. You won't get off your phone. She promised things would change. Play that guilt trip that no, she helped me and this and this. So I felt guilty and married her again. It was bad. It was a lot of emotional abuse. Not me doing it, her making me feel sorry for her. She never really had friends growing up. I was the second guy she was ever with. And, you know, every time we went out, we ran into people I knew. And so I had a lot of friends. I knew people. I won't talk to those people no more because I'm out of that lifestyle. But it was bad.
And how old were your kids when this started?
My daughter was 4 and my son was 2.
And they're now how old?
My daughter will be 12 this year and my son will be 10. So for the last couple of years,
lots of emotional damage.
Yeah, since mid 2019, my ex-wife started to hand them over again, but would only let me see them at the Winnipeg Child Access Agency. Nothing to do with CFS, just a third party approved, court approved supervising agency that has cameras in every corner and someone with you at 5 feet at all times. They write down every move, everything. They've called Child and Family Services and even the police concerned about abuse in the mom's home. And it seems as soon as my name is given, they've even realized I'm not joking. I have phone recordings with the highest authority of CFS in Manitoba, social workers yelling at me and saying, oh, you just can't get it. Your ex-wife doesn't want to be with you. I was like, really? Talk to our marriage counselor. Talk to everyone who's around. I wanted attention. She never gave it to me. I said, okay, then give me a divorce. Your option. But literally this on her phone all the time. And she admitted that to her friends saw it. And I felt more alone with her than when I was actually living by myself before I met her, and completely alone. Like I live alone. I really don't have many friends, and I would rather have a couple of real friends than a bunch of fake friends. So I'm by myself quite often, but I feel less lonely than when I did when I was married. And she always posted all over the internet. It's all backed up and all in discs, computer, my laptop, my Google, all backed up of her bragging about me being a loving father, wrapped around my kids' fingers, videos of me playing with my kids, jumping for my kids. Dad never gets a break, but yet claimed that I never spent a moment with my kids, ever. I've had my daughter paint my nails. I have to talk with this high-pitched voice. When I talk normal, this is my voice. But according to the court evaluators, I'm a very dangerous, aggressive man because I have a deep voice. That's actually in her report. I'm dangerous because I have a deep voice. It's like, are you kidding me? So I've had to learn to talk like this to sound a little bit more friendlier, which makes me grunt and growl more because I have Tourette's. And that's one of my symptoms. It sucks. But, being good looking sucks. Sorry, stupid jokes is part of the Tourette's thing. I really hate it. I really do. But being judged and made out to be, according to the first evaluator, psychotic because I have Tourette's. Even my Tourette's specialist got raging mad at that and wrote a very angry letter about pure discrimination. Human rights agreed that was extremely discriminating to the point where the judge had to agree and redo an evaluation. And I told them I recorded everything, and I proved that the second one did the same thing, by saying you're a loving father, you're a great dad. He admitted all that. He was going to recommend every second weekend alone and one Wednesday with my daughter, one with my son, because he can see they both desperately want my attention. Right now, I get 5 hours supervised. And so driving truck is hard because my ex-wife will not compromise. So I get every second Saturday, we do 9 to 2. And it's very difficult getting or keeping a job when you got to take a few days off. As a truck driver, quite often they only want you to do the reset or one night and then leave. But when you have to take almost 4 days off because what's my weekend? We go, can't your ex-wife hand them over tonight? Oh, she did, but she doesn't want to. And I have to arrange a supervisor. And it makes it difficult, trying to make a living, but now recently she is claiming that I don't feed my kids. I don't spend time with them. Last month, all of March, my visits were canceled with CFS. Their excuse at the end of the month was, apparently I showed a picture of a gun to my kids on my phone. I was like, really? That warranted a police investigation, apparently. Yet all the people supervising Boom and myself were never contacted by any officer, other than the social worker calling, yelling at me. I have the phone recording, yelling at me, canceling my visits, and said, when we're done, we'll call you, and then hanging up the phone on me. I had no other contact with CFS, but at the end of the month, all of a sudden, boom, they cleared me just like that. And I discovered that my ex-wife had wanted to do stuff every weekend with my kids, and my kids thanked me for letting them do it. I had a hard time telling my kids. CFS called and canceled my visits, saying that my place is dangerous. My ex-wife is still trying to accuse me of molesting my daughter. If you go on Google, type in The Dirty, if you know about that site, and type in Al Neufeld. January 2020 I had to leave a good paying job because I found out I'm all over the internet, all over, because apparently I molested my daughter. During the 4 years, my ex-wife kept my kids from me. And while I was being supervised in a locked building with cameras in every corner, with somebody watching me with pen and paper, writing down every dang move you make, and that's not an exaggeration. They write down every move and every word. But apparently somehow
Yes.
I really molested. She's had people call on her behalf saying that I'm picking my daughter up by her chest like this, like physically picking her up by her chest. I was like, first of all, that's not physically possible. Apparently I was constantly grabbing my daughter's bum, picking her up by the sweater. But the agency said, no, that did not happen. But yet when I found out I was all over the internet, it says that I was arrested and charged for it. But I have proof. I have a clean record. The police, I have recordings of the police having said they never heard anything. CFS even admitted they never heard anything about it. And not a single hospital had my daughter in for examination. But my daughter has been telling me somebody has been touching her. And when I try to ask her who, she freaks out.
So unfortunate. I'm sorry for everything you're going through, Al. It's it just, unfortunately, it just continues and continues and continues. But thank you so much for sharing your story. Does anybody want to ask Al any questions? Have you tried any different types of coping mechanisms or anything you can suggest?
I used to take Muay Thai kickboxing since I was 12, out of self-defense for what happened to me as a kid, both by my parents and CFS. I do some meditation. I also had to sell it because my ex-wife, but I had a $4,200 custom-built radio-controlled semi-truck. The truck was 2 feet, trailer was 3. Thing cost me $4,200 to build, had sound and everything, very powerful. I had to sell it for $200 a few months last year because I needed the money because I was off work to deal with my ex-wife causing me stuff. I couldn't afford a lawyer, so I had to leave work. But yeah, I like, my hobbies are hobby grade RC. I have a train set in that big thing, chest. My kids love it when I set it up for them too. We play with it once in a while. I'm a little bit of a nerd because I play Star Trek, the Star Trek Fleet Command, it's called, online game. That's still an online game I play. I like Star Trek. It's kind of fun. And then I had a service dog that I had to rehome because of a guy not wanting to pay me after I worked for him. But I have another dog, but he's out of friends right now because he hasn't had time to drop him off because he was abused. So I'm trying to train him. But I hang out with my niece. I have a niece that lives out here. We hang out. I have another friend that we hang out once in a while. But mainly I spend a lot of time alone. And my thoughts, I watch just YouTube videos or movies, and sometimes I just sit there and meditate. I just shut everything off. I have this little light thing back there. It's got the sound of the ocean, and I'll just turn that on and just sit and just close my eyes and try to clear my eyes. Or not clear my eyes.
Good. Sounds good for you.
I love the driving.
You have stuff under control, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. It doesn't always help though. Like I drive truck and I love driving because that is very relaxing for me. And also I like doing stuff for people though. Like I love cooking and baking. I'm really good at it and I love doing it. It is therapy. But last Friday, I desperately had to get on the phone with 911 while I was in a truck stop in Ontario. I was going to kill myself. And they rushed over, and even the Ontario Provincial Police, I got, not a fan of cops because of the way they've been out here, but they were like a godsend. They were understanding. They gave me a hug after, and one of the female actually looked like she was kind of crying when I was showing them pictures and whatnot and what was going on. They couldn't believe it. But I just try to reach out. That's why
didn't happen, and you're still here.
Yeah, that's why I posted, hey, I need someone to talk to on a few parental alienation groups. Can somebody call me? Because I want to be there for my kids. I I don't want my ex-wife to continue allowing this kind of abuse to my kids.
That's
That's
right.
right.
And you give them the power, right? When you do things
Exactly.
like that, when
And
when you give up your life, you give them way too much power.
yeah, and they'll say, see, they didn't care. That's why they ended their life. And that's not something I ever want my kids to be told.
Right.
And I
Okay,
know
I
my
have to
kids
cut
love
you.
me.
I have to
My
cut
kids
you
love
off,
me.
Al. Your
Yep,
time's up. We've got
yep,
other guests here that need to share their time. I just
yep.
want to say, once you've spoken, you could jump off because we have people in the backstage waiting to get on.
Okay.
So I'm not kicking you off yet, Al, because I'm good right now. So, but I'll let you know when I have to put some. I've got 2 more spots available.
Yep. If it's
So,
okay, if I listen until
um,
you kick me off.
right. So, what's your final word you'd like to say to your kids out there, Al?
I see you guys Saturday. Daddy proud of you. Daddy believes in both of you, and Daddy knows you love him, and Daddy loves you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Al. I guess our next guest will be, I think it was Antonella. Antonella,
Hi,
where are you from?
New York.
New York. We have another New Yorker here today.
Hmm.
Welcome, Antonella. So
Hi.
tell us what, you want to say about the
Well,
kids.
I mean, with my situation, I was, stay-home mom, and I pretty much raised my 2 children. And it was a difficult marriage. But with that, when it was time for a divorce, um, I guess all of a sudden I wasn't a mentally stable mother, and because my ex made a lot of money. That means that he would have had to pay child support. And so all of a sudden, when it was time to divorce in Supreme Court, unfortunately, I was very amicable and I wanted to co-parent and make it the best situation that could possibly be, for the 2 kids, mainly for the kids. But that was not what my ex wanted. He wanted to because it wasn't a very good marriage. It was a very narcissist abusive marriage. He already had his mind set on removing the children completely from my life, and that would be a punishment. And the fact that if he was to have full custody, he wouldn't have to pay child support, and his goal was to pretty much alienate me from the kids as far as completely removing me out of their lives. Um, Unfortunately, I wasn't very educated in the legal aspect of the corrupted court. And I was, in the beginning, I guess I was influenced and I was pretty much pressured on agreeing to certain things. Once I started realizing what was happening and the case started to get worse, um, I I tried to stick up for myself, and I tried to, but unfortunately, my ex, the courts tried saying that I was mentally ill. The children wanted to be with me. They expressed their struggles, being around dad because dad wasn't really much around and it was very verbally abusive. But the more that I fought for my kids and the more that my children fought to be with me, the more the court retaliated toward us and the more my ex-husband retaliated. And with the connections that he had with the court and the more, he was very wealthy, so he was able to pay his attorney, the more he filed more contempt motions and really battled this in court. It got to the point where um, I mean I lost everything. And thankfully, that's their goal. Their goal is to isolate you from the kids with the hopes that they won't want to be with you anymore. But they also try to break you, and they try to get get to a point where you do either, like like Al was saying, you want to kill yourself, or you're depressed, or you want things to be over, or some people just leave, and that's their goal. But it's a struggle and it was hard, but thankfully, I was able to build myself up, and because I was home for many years, I pretty much had to start over. But I'm still, I'm pro se now, and I'm still fighting in court. It's been 4 years, and you know, dealing with the person that I'm dealing with, my ex-husband, I wouldn't doubt that this won't go on for another couple more years. But yeah, I mean, it's been like a tough road, but my kids know I love them. I have been, it got to a point where my access with the kids were very limited. They tried, the whole supervised visits, same thing. There was supervisors. Then my ex would claim that there was inappropriate, but with the supervisor there and they're court appointed, basically defending, saying there was nothing inappropriate, but those are all the tactics that, they try to do. They try to, even though there's a supervisor there, a third party, someone who's, um, these are the battles and the struggles we're going to have to go through. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at right now. It's been tough, but but that's it really. I mean, unfortunately, I'm still, dealing with the court, and
It's so
and trying to
sad.
get, yeah,
But you are so right, because their goal is to make us broke. Their goal is to make us lay down and die. Their goal is that we don't expose their abuse. That's the
right,
main thing. They
right.
don't want to be exposed. So what are you doing health-wise to keep
I mean,
yourself fit,
I work.
active?
Yeah, you just try to keep busy. You work. I work. I I have, little hobbies that I do. It's always, I find little things just to keep yourself, busy and not, but in the end, it's always, you're always going to struggle. It is, and it can come in any time, like it's, it's something that, you yourself have to work on, like you have to be, so it's, I just do little things that, that just I enjoy, and I keep myself busy, really. I don't, nothing, anything particular. I don't do anything in particular, like special. Like I just, um, I think I work a lot. So work definitely keeps me busy and keeps me focused.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, what would you like to say to your kids if they were watching you?
I mean, yeah, I mean, they know I love them. I love them dearly. And, I'll never give up on them, and I'll always fight for them, and I'll always be there for them. And,
Please.
that's it. Yeah.
Your last advice to parents out there? Anything that you'd like to tell
I
parents,
mean, I always say, you
alienators?
know, I just always say, don't give up. I hear sometimes some parents get upset or angry, and they, sometimes, but just keep telling your kids you love them, show them love. That's all they want. They want to know that they need that validation, because who knows what's being told to them by the other parent. I mean, I could just imagine. And they're
Oh,
young. They
yeah.
don't know, some understand. My son, never doesn't really get it. My daughter does. She's 14. She sees, she witnessed a lot. Just tell them you love them, be there for them, and don't give up, and just keep fighting. Don't, they want you to stop, just keep going. Just don't ever stop. Just keep going.
Mm, good
It's,
advice.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Antonella.
You're
My heart
welcome.
goes out to you, to your children. Al, I'm so sorry that, we all have to go through this. I've got 18 years, and the best I can do is just support parents out there and let them know that this is not something that is just them. It's everybody. It's 22 million just in the US that are dealing with it. Canada doesn't even have statistics because it's so bad, and they don't want to let people know this is what's happening.
I
So
think
thank you, Antonella. I'm going to put David Schubert on now, and then we'll get Michael, and then we'll get Echo, and we have Joan Kloss Zannard
Hi, Joan.
from California.
No,
California.
Connecticut.
Connecticut. I'm sorry.
So it's getting on the late side for me. I'm also supposed to be talking on a bill in California that they still haven't called. And they may go to 11:30 at night in California.
Oh, okay.
And
All
I'm not
right.
staying. No. I'm not staying up till 2:30 in the morning.
No, I don't blame
Just
you.
so I can say I support the bill. I've already written my letter in. They know I support the bill. So, and I'm not even from California. I live in Connecticut. I'm just calling it as an expert.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Joan's
All right.
great.
Hey,
Joan.
Well,
Antonella,
go
how
ahead.
you doing?
Go ahead, David. Tell us how. I mean, I just had an interview with David just the other week, so go ahead. Share your story with us and what you would like to tell your children on this special day.
Well, pretty much a lot of folks already know my story, how they were abducted by the ex-wife and stuff, taken overseas, and how I had to fight for a long time to get them back here, and then just to have some jackass judge decide that since they'd been gone so long, which was not my fault, I can't control how long courts take to make a ruling. But because they'd been gone so long, he says, well, it's in children's best interest to remain with the mother, and I'm going to let her go back to with the children from where they were just ordered from. I knew that it wasn't going to work out the way it should have, the way this individual thought in his infinite wisdom, that the mother was not going to obey any of the orders of the court. So I went through all the next several years of complete alienation. No photographs, no phone calls, no Zoom meetings, no cards and letters, nothing. And finally my daughter did reach out to me when she was 17 last year. And she became curious about me, found me on Facebook, and we began conversing back and forth until such of a time as that she asked if I would go ahead and bring her back. Well, by that time, I'd already had sole custody because of modification issues back 2 years later. So I made arrangements for her to come back. But by then, after she got here, I realized that the tolls of parental alienation had really affected her tremendously. She now lives in another city. I have very little contact with her. I don't think that these judges really understand what they're doing when they give up the child to an alienator. They just don't grasp the situation. They need more education in terms of this. Judges need this. I know, like in California, they they mandate that judges go through 40 hours of training every year for family court judges. And a good part of that is domestic abuse, but none of it touches exactly on parental alienation. And that's where these judges need to be educated, and until then, these targeted parents and victim children are going to remain as they are. The alienators are going to continue getting away with it. And God help us, because I have a strong feeling that my daughter is going to wind up repeating the same cycle with her own future family. It's a never-ending pattern.
It's so true because this is a repetitive thing over and over, and everybody's getting the same repeat. It's just newer. The next day comes another one and another one and another one. And these judges need to stop doing this because it's their fault that this is what's happening. I mean, this podcast is, I'm taking it to the judges to hear our stories. So this is very important for them to understand that we are good, loving parents. And what they did, like in my case, the judge knew my ex-husband was a conniving, scheming, manipulative liar. But because the teenage children wanted to go with him because he dangled that carrot after he had me falsely arrested. So of course the kids want to go with dad because He's already got rid of mom. Why wouldn't the kids want to get rid of mom? You know, and this happens to dads too. And we're all falling into the same story. So these judges have to stop making the kids choose a parent. We need equal shared parenting. It's very important. I mean, people are losing lives. Children are dying. Parents are dying. David, tell us about your book.
Well, I'm getting ready to
Books.
release another book. Previously I'd released two others. One was a book back in 2017, which was nothing more than a collage of articles that I'd written, reflections. But then earlier this year, I released a memoir because I found out that not many parents that have gone through parental alienation or child parental abduction and things like that, most of them, they feel embarrassed or, ashamed or whatever. They don't want to go ahead and share their story with the world. Fact is, a lot of times they won't even share it with their closest friends, for this. And plus they're fearful. Me, I said to heck with it. I went ahead and shared my story in full for the last 20 years. Now this book that I'm getting ready to release, this is probably going to be, the type of a book that I'll be proud of for a long time. It's Parental Alienation Unmasked is the title of it. And it's a collage of articles, but it's a question and answer type book at the same time. It covers, what parental alienation is, what parents go through as they go through alienation, what the children go through during alienation, what grandparents go through during alienation, what adult children of alienation go through, what are the mental aspects of parental alienation and stuff, what's your legal rights in the courts, what can you do, things like that. So it kind of covers everything. And this is a book that I'd love to get in the hands of judges so they can actually see what the hell these alienators are, because everyone thinks, oh, they're just crazy. Well, yeah, they are at certain points, but we really don't know what causes parental alienation. It could be an underlying mental health issue, and the two most prominent ones are narcissism and those that are borderline personality. Those are the two main ones. But you also have people that are bipolar. You have others that are sociopath. You have whatever. But then again, it could be a personality defect where someone has a sense of entitlement where they can do whatever to whoever, whenever, and wherever they want without repudiation. However, there is another thing that I've also talked about in my book, is that it could be the type of a deal that it goes back to their upbringing. If they, were brought up in a household where these behaviors were, shown during the time of growing up, they might just become a mirror of whoever was reflecting these behaviors upon them, and come to believe that these are normal and accepted behaviors. So there's a lot of different reasons for that. But when it comes down to it, it's all about unresolved issues and trauma in their past life.
Yeah, I agree. And also they may have been alienated themselves.
This is true. That's why I say it goes back. One of the things is that their past life growing up, that they may have been, they're just mimicking the behavior that they were taught as a child.
Right. Exactly. So what are your last words here to say to parents out there, your children? Would you like to say something to them, to, judges, lawyers, specialists, therapists?
Well, I have a lot, but I'd have to have
Sure.
a book for that one. But
I'm
as
sure
far as
you
the parents, all I can say is don't give up. There is hope out there. There are people and organizations and other things that can help guide you, whether it's help from the support of family and friends or therapists to help you in overcoming the mental and psychological emotions that you might be feeling. But at the same time, You got to remember your children. They're worth it. They're counting on you to be their hero and bring them back and, bring light back into their life of darkness. Some of them don't realize they're in darkness, but when they see the light, it'll be a different story. As far as the judges and attorneys, start looking at what's in the best interest of the children instead of having them, be used as hollow words to take up empty spaces on a parental responsibilities order. Because you can't tell me.
Right. Oh, David, what happened to David?
Huh?
Sorry, we lost you there for a minute.
Oh.
Repeat what you just finished saying.
I say for the judges and stuff, they need to understand that the best interest standards, they've got to be more than just hollow words that they put on an empty parental responsibilities order. They have to have some teeth that bite that says, hey, it's not in their best interest for you to remove the children completely from their other normally loving parent.
Right.
It's best when a child has both of them.
It is. I
I also say that if this was an intact family, is this what we would be doing? If there was actually true abuse in an intact family and they didn't want to separate and they wanted to work through it, they'd all be in counseling. They'd all be working on the relationships. We wouldn't be taking the children away. Maybe there might be, if the person had been violent toward one of the kids, there might be a restraining order. And during that time, they're working on things. But we're not, in an intact family, we're not taking those kids and removing them from that person's life. So if we don't do it in an intact family, why are we doing it in a divorced family?
Right. That's so true. If anybody doesn't know who Joan Cloth Bannard is, Joan is a GAL in.
No, it's more than that. Okay, so I'm certified as GAL.
She's certified. Go ahead, you finish it.
Right, but the lovely state of Connecticut refuses to grandfather me in once they created new laws. They deliberately made sure I didn't get the renewal application. Now, that being said, I have a master's in marriage and family therapy. I'm certified in brain injury. I've got recovery support specialist, life coaching, exercise, science. The joke is we might as well put the alphabet behind my name. I have been doing this for over 35 years, working with domestic violence, not even knowing that some of what I was working with was actually parental alienation until 25 years ago. And I was able to call Dr. Richard Gardner up, and have a conversation with him because I know him, went to school with his kids, and he remembered me.
We're so glad that you're here. Joan has helped me through many years of challenges. She's taught me how to speak to my kids. I mean, I'm so grateful for everything Joan has done. And I highly recommend people to reach out to Joan because I don't know if I could have done it without her. I'm working on, I think, about 8 years with Joan now since I've known you. PAS study group. I've been, clicking on to every group I could. And that's how I ended up with over 100 groups. Philly Slim here. Great comments, Philly. Thank you for your love, your support. But $585 billion question. Title 4D.
Most people don't know what this is. This is not Title IV as in Americans Disability Act. This is Title 4D under the federal government, which provides funding in various areas. One of those being that for every Child Protective Services or Department of Children and Family Services puts in foster care or adopts out, the agency gets $10,000 to $15,000. Now, this wasn't an issue until we had a lot of budget cuts. And then DCF and CPS began to lose funding. One, because they weren't functioning properly. Two, because the states had to do all these cutbacks. So how else were they going to bolster their lost revenue that they needed to pay salaries and keep their doors open? Start taking kids from good parents who are easy to place. Older kids and kids that are handicapped in any way, they will get $15,000 for. Anything under that is anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow.
Philly, does that answer your multi-million-dollar question?
Wow. Crazy.
This has been a known fact for many years. My husband's case dates back 25 years. And back in the day, they knew what his wife was doing was wrong, but they were more afraid of if they penalized her, especially financially, it was going to harm the children. They didn't understand the psychological ramifications of it, especially here in Connecticut. They just didn't understand. So it was a constant, bad girl, here's a new court order. Bad girl, here's a new court order. Bad girl, here, 6 of these. By the time we got done with that, the kids were 16 and 18. We had watched the kids' grades and behavior go up and down like this. Every time we filed a contempt or the GAA brought her back into court, their grades and their behavior went down. Every time it was quiet, their grades and behavior went up. Boom, boom. So here they are. They're getting ready to go to college. My husband said, okay, it's going to it's a lot more involved. But basically, he told them he loves them and always loves them and always will love them, and hasn't heard from them ever since. Sadly, in his case, his son is severely traumatized.
Unbelievable.
His son's executive functioning skills, such as critical thinking, are beyond damaged. I'm not sure they're even repairable unless he really did the work and got into therapy. About 8 months ago, during last summer, I was at a memorial service for a very good musician friend. This musician's son had his band up on the stage, and there was a gentleman on the stage with a saxophone. And I thought he kind of looked familiar. So I asked a few people, did they recognize him? Nobody recognized him. So I went over to the widow and asked her if she recognized him. She turned around to look, turned back around to talk to me when this kid jumped off the stage, ran and lunged at me and shoved me to the ground as hard as he could on top of patrons in the audience. All of this in front of the widow. How old do you think this child is? Well,
30?
You know what's going on. His behavior is that of a young kid, of a hormonal child who has no control and cannot critically think that this is not the behavior of a 33-year-old man at a memorial service for his best friend. This is one of my major concerns.
This is what I find with my adult children sending me messages. They sound like they're 15, 17, and 18 and not 33, 34, and 36.
Exactly.
This is what happened to them. Their brains stopped growing. Their
It's
bodies
not that they stopped growing. Let me explain it a little bit better, Mary.
Okay, I said it wrong, but that's how I see it.
Right, you see, but you're on the right track. Okay? You're on the right track. The human brain does not stop growing till age 25. It doesn't stop maturing till age 35. This is why our federal government, using science and research, don't let you vote till you're 18. Don't let you drink or smoke till you're 21, and you can't rent a car till you're 25. You're not emotionally, mentally mature enough. Well, now add in psychological abuse and psychological trauma, or even physical trauma or sexual trauma, okay? And person gets stunted at the age that abuse began. So it's not that they're not growing. Yes, they might be intellectually growing, but one of their main stages of development, executive functioning and critical thinking, gets stopped or delayed. So it might be that at 8 years old, the abuse began, but maybe now they're acting like a 10-year-old, but they're 30 years old. So it's very slow and delayed. This this is scary. This is why they don't often function very well in society, and end up in the situations that they do. And it's
My daughter, my daughter
go ahead.
sent me a message one day, Joan. Maybe you could explain what this means.
Mhm.
She says, take down my intellectual photos.
Okay, so
When you
she
said
meant intellectual
intellectual,
proprietary. So what she means
what's
is
that mean?
anything she's drawn or made for you that you have posted is her intellectual property. She didn't say it right. It's her intellectual property. So in other words, if you write an article and somebody takes it and plagiarizes it, they've stolen your intellectual property. Mary, if you've posted artwork or letters or whatever, things that your daughter has done, that's her intellectual property, even though but she's getting it wrong though, because she wrote it to you. She gave it to you.
Yes.
It is no longer her
Yes.
intellectual property. It is now your ownership.
Okay.
So
I couldn't understand what she was
she's
saying
not
because I
really
even said to
understanding it.
Wendy,
Yeah, she's not really understanding it. It clearly shows that her father has told her to say this because
oh,
it was, again, it's kind of like being an Indian giver. You know,
yeah,
she's giving you the letter. Now she's taking it back. Am I making sense to you guys? I
Yeah.
hope.
oh, for sure you are. And Wendy and I talked about this the other day because I said, Wendy, what she mean by intellectual photos? Like, I took those photos. She was a baby, or it was a Happy Mother's Day card to me. But I just want to get David to finish what he has to say
Go
so
ahead.
I can get Michael and Echo to speak a little bit. And then we can get back to you, Joan. David, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I think I've already said a mouthful outside of the fact that, just stand your ground. Don't let them intimidate you. Don't sweat the small stuff. They're kind of like alienators or nothing more than schoolyard bullies. The more reaction you give them, the more they're going to keep pushing you. So just don't react to them and live your life.
David, have you been reading my book?
Right.
No, but I got one that
I
you
think
can
we
read.
all have, Joan. Well, thank you so much, David. I'm going to take it to Michael, or is it Echo? Whichever one wants to take the floor. Does somebody have to leave, David? Or Michael, do you have to pick up your son soon? Or
I do, yes. I have to leave at 7.
okay, we'll get you to this.
No, Echo. I
Change.
won't be. I won't be too long, so don't worry on this.
Okay.
Not tripping.
I just want
I
to
just
say,
wanted to-
Michael was. Can I just say something? Michael was in a event today with Chef Anissa Brown in Brampton.
Yes.
Is that where you were? Can you explain what that was happening there too, as well? If you got a minute.
Yeah. No. I'll first. I just want to start off, and I want to congratulate all of you for being the champions that you are. It takes a lot of courage to do what you do, even though, as David said, we have to think about the kids first. I'm the executive director of BGC Peel, our Boys and Girls Club in Peel, and our thought process is the exact same. The kids have to come first. So today was very fortunate. Chef Vanessa Brown in Brampton, we had a flag raising in the city of Brampton, which is just outside of city of Toronto. As part of the region of Peel, we're the third largest municipality in the province of Ontario. And Brampton is one of the first cities in Ontario to recognize Parental Alienation Day. So we're taking the small strides, but we probably had about 100 people come out and attend. The most important part I find about the event today was hearing the lived experience. It's, as much as, us from organizations, politicians speak, it's really you people that are in the trenches that are having to deal with it and having to live with it. So I truly commend you that. I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 1. To David, your earlier point, I don't know how it is in America, but I know in Canada, our grandparent rights are non-existent. So, whatever ends up happening with our grandchildren because of parental alienation, we have no say in that. So one of the initiatives that Chef Vanessa, myself, and a couple other doing is we're putting the fire to the metal with our politicians to one, get that addressed, but most importantly is in Canada, domestic violence and intimate partner violence is recognized. It's under the criminal code. It's recognized in the charter, but they don't speak to or name parental alienation under the mental abuse component of the criminal code. So we're challenging all of our local politicians up to the Prime Minister. We send letters on a weekly basis, communication on a weekly basis, that it needs to be identified. And not only identified, but it needs to be penalized. And once it's brought into code, and once these politicians start recognizing from the government level, that's where I think we can work on the educational component. Because to be honest, and to all you've said, a lot of people are not aware of what parental alienation is. One, that they're committing it. Two, that they're victims of it. They just, when I'm a paralegal in Ontario. When I was articling about 15 years ago, I was the first interview with a lot of clients for the lawyer I was working for, and a lot of it at the time was family law. And the first question that I would get out of, it didn't matter if it was mom or dad, was my spouse just screwed me. How can I screw them out of seeing my kids? And it's like, why are you thinking about using the kids as a weapon? And that's what ends up being a weapon. And it doesn't matter if it's mom or dad. We all know that our kids need equal access, and they need access to their grandparents. As a family, and to Joan's point, if a family is intact and there's issues happening behind the scene, it's not being addressed. So why is it because a family has broken up or separated that all of a sudden, your parental rights and your parental ability are brought to question? That's not the way any of the acts, I'm sure in the States too, that has been written. So, from a Canadian standpoint, is please know that, from a boys and girls perspective, and I even know from our national perspective, these are things that we're trying to bring attention to our politicians, and we're not going to let it slide. They all, I'm sure in the States it's the same. When election time comes, they're there to listen. They're waving the flag. They're raising their fists. We're going to be there to help you. Within months of being elected, they completely forget about who or what the issue is, and we can't. It's the kids. We have to be putting the kids first, because to David's point, if it's the same with, and I hate putting it this way, same as poverty, same as issues like that. If you don't educate and you don't show hope and you don't show mechanisms to better not only your own situation but better life as they become the adults and sit in our chairs, you're just going to continue generational trends, and that's not solving anything for anyone. And I know what, we all love our kids, we do. And at the end of the day, they're kids. They're impressionable, and they should never be taught hate. Definitely should not be taught hate for a parent. And it baffles me that we're in 2023. We have to have these kind of conversations, and that our judicial systems, doesn't matter if north of the border or here, don't understand that. And I don't know if it's they don't understand it or if they just don't care enough to want to understand it, because it's going to cause more work for them. But that's too bad. We're the taxpayers. We're the ones who dictate, legislate. And it's about time that our governments do what's truly in the best interest of us.
That's right. Especially when there's false allegations, for 20 or, let's say 15 years, never a moment where the kids were ever abused, but the spouse wants a divorce. He's having an affair or she's having an affair. Then all of a sudden they're claiming false allegations. So the children have to quickly make up lies that they've been abused all their lives. This is the most damaging part, because there was never abuse before until that night of the false allegations. And this is where a lot of parents are falling into. There's that dad, Wendy can talk about that, who got sentenced to 100 years just the other day. We allowed to talk about that, Wendy? This is getting
yes. Yeah. With his parents' permission, I share his story all around the world. He's actually in Tennessee. He is a father who has been charged and convicted to 100 years imprisonment for false touching of his inappropriate touching of his children. His ex-mother-in-law happens to be Connie Reguli, who is a Tennessee lawyer. She was barred. She was charged with child endangerment. And all you have to do is Google her name and you'll find all the charges she's been up on. But now his father is sitting in jail.
One sec, Wendy. Can you someone unmute or mute themselves? Okay, thank you.
His parents are right beside themselves. It's been 2 years since his parents have seen their grandchildren. He has not been permitted to see his grandchildren, and the mother of the children is actually Connie's adoptive daughter, and the other grandparents are biologically related. So his identity and his genetics are being automatically transferred and changed, and this family is being erased from his life. So now I'm on a campaign to help support this family and try to find freedom for their son due to the false allegations that he's been brought up against.
Thank you for that, Wendy.
That's just one of the stories. But the other story, another story, which is very heartbreaking, and if you're not familiar with it, it's about another alienated father who spent 3 years fighting the mental health to have a full evaluation done on his mental health due to false allegations. After 3 years, he finally, after all the fight and being proven that he was stable enough to have a relationship with his children, he ends up showing up the day to meet his children, and he was shot and killed by his ex-father-in-law. The one who is raising his children now is his ex-spouse who put this all in motion while her father is sitting in jail for killing him. And if you're not familiar with the story, it's John Mast. They do have an organization for him, which is the John Mast Foundation. It's MAST. You can Google his name and get a story. His funeral was actually broadcast on YouTube as well. And these are the horrific stories. There was also another one at Rattlesnake Point, which is actually in Ontario, and I'm in Burlington. And it just happened so that the father, due to parental alienation, he wanted to make the mother suffer. He ended up committing suicide, and we also have a law now, which is called Kira's Law. And he jumped off Rattlesnake Point with his daughter, killing him and her. So murder-suicide, and this was another cause due to parental alienation. So these are the horrific things that happen.
That's the one just 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
He was a lawyer. Yeah. So, I mean, it happens everywhere. It's not just happening in the States or in the UK. We're getting the same abuse. But thanks for that, Wendy. Do you have anything else left, Michael, for us to...
No,
just
the only thing to say is, please know that there are organizations out there like BGC, Boys and Girls Club, that are willing to help and to use our platforms to spread the message and put pressure onto our politicians. It's we are in this all together, and there has to be a collectiveness. And it's sad that even in the Canadian law system, the burden of proof falls on those who are citing the crime. Yet in family court, it's the opposite. Those who are being targeted are the ones who now have to prove their innocence, and that needs to change.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I'm still proving my innocence for 18 years now.
Yeah.
18 years, I was the greatest mom ever, and then all of a sudden, overnight, I became a child abuser. But Michael, how do we get our politicians involved? Wendy and I and all these groups, we've been marching to every politician's house in Toronto, Etobicoke, Brampton. We go to Burlington, Hamilton, wherever we can. We go twice a month, but the politicians don't open their doors to us.
It's
what do we do?
It is hard, and I completely agree. It's going to take that one MP who's willing to put a bill forward. But I think it's sending collective letters. It's doing social media posts. We have to call them out, and I know that's not the professional way to do it, but we have to call them out when they're. I understand we need to be helping around the world, but when the Canadian government has just given out another $50 million to help Ukraine in the war, which I understand needs to happen, why are we not putting equal amount of contributions back into our own systems to ensure that our own children's, youth, and families are being protected. You know, there
Right.
needs to be equal spending for what we're doing, and I think it's. And we can't wait for election time. I think this is a matter that just needs to be continuously hounded. And when you have the opportunity to speak in front of a member of parliament, no matter what that conversation is, especially if it's through a delegation, you have to take advantage of the opportunity and bring up parental alienation and how that they actively support criminalizing domestic and interpartner relationships. Why are they doing it for mental abuse against children and families? Put them on the spot. Call them out why they aren't doing it.
You know, that's what we need to do. I mean, Wendy and I, we had a special event here for Ted McMeekin. We had Samara Vakar. We had all these other politicians to come and promised us that if we voted for them, they would help us. They have literally blocked us out of the scene now that they've been put into position. Mm-hmm. So are they using us, our pain, for their gain? This is wrong. So we need to get these politicians out there that if they're promising us help, because they are watching our children get abused, but yet they can share pictures of their grandchildren, their birthdays, and everything else. I just got a message on Facebook from Monique Taylor inviting me for Mother's Day. What the hell? Mother's Day? You won't help me find my children. You won't help us get our children, but you're sending us messages to come join you for Mother's Day. See, these kind of things that politicians do to us is very heartbreaking. And this is why the courts are so overloaded, so backloaded with cases over and over and over. They had to bring in 3 judges into London last month because the cases were so behind because of COVID. They can't keep up with the Zoom. They can't keep up with court, walk-in court. It's sad what we are watching in front of our own eyes, and we can't do anything without politicians. So I urge these politicians, if you come in my face, I will be staying in your face, because those are my kids that they got messed with. And it's not fair. Those are your kids that they messed with. These are the worldwide kids. These kids are our future generation. But thank you, Michael. I'm going to pass it on to Echo.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome, Michael. Thank you so much. Echo, the floor is yours.
Yes. Hi, guys. Sorry, today's been crazy. I'm about to park right now, and then I can talk a little more. All right. So.
Okay. While you do that, are you parked?
I am parked.
Oh, okay.
Yes, if you guys want me to say, go ahead. What's up?
I just want to read this. She says, Kaylin Stringer says, my son in Australia is experiencing same. Spent 3 years proving his innocence, and now BM doesn't want to go to final. So in July 22nd, orders for us to have supervised reintroduction. I never heard it that way, but is that like reunification? Still having not got past the supervisor, getting to know. Okay, these commas are missing and everything else, so I'm not reading this very well. Getting to know, and they blaming his attachment bond to BM. I don't know what BM is. That she can't leave him as he has autism.
BM stands for Bio Mom.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Joan.
Yep. Then the introduction is the AU, Australia's version, probably, of our reunification program.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Then she says, doesn't like supervisor that are unbiased, and changes to a biased government, one which supports her narrative. That's basically what happens worldwide. I mean, we're all dealing with everything in the same way. It's just a different child, different parent. Go ahead, Echo.
Hi, guys. Thanks for putting up with me. I turned the mic on, turned the mic off, and I've been moving. So My name is Echo. I have been alienated for the past 18 years. I have a total of 4 children that I birthed, and the oldest one is taken from me. He was 3 back in 2004 when my very own parents, yes, you heard that right, my very own parents, the very same people who birthed and raised me, took my own kid from me. And not only did they take him from me, but they hid him from me. And they moved 60 miles away from my childhood home in Hillsborough to the house that they're in now in Salem. So what they did was they took him and they moved, and they didn't tell me where they moved to, and they told everybody that I abandoned my own son. And he is 21 now. I have a 17, 14, and 13 that live with me. They think it's kind of weird that they have an older brother that they don't know. And I've been silenced my whole life. I was always told by my parents to shut the fuck up, do as I'm told, blah, blah, blah. This is how you think, this is what you do. Don't have your own mind, don't have your own opinion. So I didn't know it, but I was born into abuse. And then when I got pregnant, it was 3 months after high school. I thought I was invincible. I didn't think I was going to get pregnant, you know, young, I'm 18. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I made amends with my parents, and I wanted to make sure that my son was going to be good. So I moved back in with my parents, and my parents convinced me to put unknown father on the birth certificate. I am Caucasian. The father is from Mexico, and he's illegal. So my parents scared the crap out of me and told me if he stole my son and went to Mexico, there'd be nothing that America could do. So 19-year-old me, just 2 weeks after turning 19, I have my son, and I put unknown father on the birth certificate. Jumping around a little bit, now I know years to come, had I put his name on the birth certificate, they would have never been able to do what they did. And then there's more to it too. You guys were talking about false allegations earlier. I've never had a dirty UA in my life, and these same people will say that I gave birth to my second born son while I was high. Again, I've never had a dirty UA. I've even volunteered for a hair follicle test. So basically, my rights have never been severed. My parents, which is funny, we were talking about grandparent rights in Canada that they don't have. In America, you do. They say that you don't, but they do. My parents got grandparent, custodial, emergency custody care of my son, but they did it all dirty. And they told the judge that I was third paperwork. So I was the bad mom that didn't show up to court. And then they kept him from me, and they hid him from me, and I couldn't find him. So I ended up freaking out and doing the things that they were accusing me of. And I was like, I hate the world. I hate you all. They're not going to give me my kid back. And I just started going crazy. And then I only went crazy for a few months. I got my life back together. I did everything that I was supposed to. I didn't say it then, but I know now. My son never should have been taken from me. He never deserved to be taken from me, and vice versa. But since he was taken from me, he should have been given back to me. I've done more than enough. I've done a lot of work, a lot of self-reflection. I volunteered for so many things, and other women who were like me or in other positions got their kids back, and I never got my kid back. Why? Because nobody is holding abusers and alienators accountable. I went to a year-long residential treatment center where you work with CPS. I wasn't CPS involved, where you can work with public officials. All those public officials knew that my son was taken from me, and not one of them cared about reunification. And they just told me, you're a dirty addict that deserves to have your kid taken away. You got to do this, you got to do that. Do what I say, and you'll get your head back. So I did everything that I was told I was supposed to do, even though my son wasn't supposed to be taken from me. And I never got my kid back. And he is going to be turning 22 this summer. He graduated high school 4 years ago. He could be graduating college this year for all I know. And I'm pretty angry. A lot of people don't like that I'm angry all the time, but it's my life story and it is what it is. And I'm wrapping it up. I started protesting when my son turned 18. I've been protesting outside my parents' house because they're my personal abusers and alienators. So I purposely moved 10 minutes away from where they live so I can go and protest them any freaking time I want, which is what I do. And then today I went to their house for a good couple hours from like 7 to 10. And I knocked on neighbors' doors. I gave them brochures. I talked to them. I put liquid chalk all over and put "We don't like abusers and alienators." And then I took a break. And then I went to Salem Riverfront Park, which is where I got my reunification visit with my son back in 2005. And I did like an education thing today. I did Bubbles of Love at the park for the first time. I've never like educated the public in that sense. I've done protests, but not education. And you can't change anything unless you educate people. And I've been trying to get involved with actually changing laws and legislators and senators. I talked to Claudia Ovalle from Facebook. She's been doing stuff in Texas and changing laws in Texas and California. But I'm not at her level, and she's been doing it for 2 years, and she's got like a full team of people with her. So I'm trying to do it all and what I can. I can't even get a proclamation. I got denied twice, last year and this year. So I'm just literally doing what I can by my lonesome. And so I'm very, very grateful to have met all of you, unfortunately, under these circumstances. And I really, really wish that I had known about y'all and I had the support when I was fresh in it, which is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that other people don't have to be in the position we're in.
So I'm just going to say something to you. Your response was what in the mental health field we would say would have been normal response. Okay. And letting go. Was it the right response? Maybe not, but it is a normal response that we see because
that's the problem too, because I reacted just normal. You know, my kid was taken, so I had a reaction. They used the reaction against me.
Echo, it's got a name. It's a situational condition. Mm-hmm. It is a situational condition from the legal abuse syndrome, narcissistic victim syndrome, and the living death of not having your child in your life. There is no closure because while the child is physically alive, he is not physically and emotionally alive to you. So in technicality, your response was really normal. And the fact that you straightened it up in such a short period of time is incredible, because I can't tell you how many parents I had where it's taken them years, or in the end, it ends up killing them. Okay. So
I know. It kills me because I went to treatment with a lady. I hate it. I have this visual in my head, dude. She literally handed her little itty little baby over to authorities so she can walk out and do drugs, dude. Like, that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not what it was. And even if I was, you know, people deserve second chances. People deserve that stuff. And they put that all against me. So, like, I was with women who didn't want to be with their children. And here I am, would give all my limbs to be with my kid. And I will never probably ever get reunited with him. I don't think he's ever going to come to me.
No, and I get it. It's very difficult.
Obviously, parents die.
As far as the legislative stuff, Pass Intervention, which is the nonprofit I run, we are going to be doing a huge legislative conference in October of 2024, where you can virtually come in or you can come to it. It'll be in Southbury, Connecticut, and learn the history of legislation, how to write legislation. We'll probably break into groups to work on different legislations related to family courts that need to be dealt with, then come together, you know, and finalize this stuff so everybody has pretty much the same or similar language.
We need unity. Unity is key.
So that it becomes national to international in the wording. So, by the way, I forget the woman's name in Texas. Can you remind me again? What was it?
Claudia Ovalle.
Claudia. I think I did reach out to her, but I'll have somebody else.
She's with Petra Dieter. She's on
that's right.
Yeah, Parent Alienation Study Group, Victim to Hero. Yeah.
No, she's not part of that. Victim to Hero is separate from PISG. I'm
Yes,
on PISG.
but didn't she join the parent alienation study group?
Yeah,
I
she
see
is
it.
a member.
Yeah.
So am I. She's also
No,
part
I
of
know,
the
but yeah,
right.
but she has her own Victim to Hero.
Right.
We met.
Victim to Hero is her own organization, just like
Yeah.
Past Intervention is mine.
Yeah.
Right.
There's many groups out there.
Yes. That's the problem. So when I started in this 25 years ago, I was like there were like a few blog things out there, and I started disappearing off, and I joined a Yahoo online support group run by a guy named Lionel Richards. It was called Stop Pass, and it was on Yahoo. Well, we ended up with 3 groups, and then Lionel died, and it took us 3 years to get Yahoo to give us the group. And then 3 years later, Yahoo kind of pretty much shuts down Yahoo groups. And so, but I've been running the nonprofit for, since 2010 or 11 as a known nonprofit. Anyways, it's not the point. The point is, we've been around for over 25 years, and we really want to do this first legislative conference and bring everybody together. When about 15 years ago, I tried to bring everybody under one umbrella. And I said, look, I don't care if you go under me or I go under you. It doesn't really matter. We don't care. I said, we just have to come together. There were so many egos that nobody would do anything, and nobody would work with each other. So that's how Past Intervention got built so big, because I was willing to work with everybody, but they're not willing to work with everybody.
That's right.
And that's how because that was not my intent, was to help families and to help the advocates and the professionals to understand it. In fact, we've just completed an 8-part training program for judges, attorneys, anybody who works in the family courts. And we're just finalizing some stuff up and going to run a pilot program for it. But it's a great introductory, and then we'll have advanced courses, and we'll have courses that are specific to mental health and whatnot. We just really need this badly. If we don't, look, we've got a bunch of people out there claiming that parental alienation isn't real, that reunification therapy is a camp. Okay. And then they claim how it traumatizes the kids. It's not the reunification that's traumatizing the kids. No. It's these groups coming to the pickup places, coming to the drop-off places, picketing, rioting, blocking. That's what terrorizes the kids.
Mm-hmm. After my son was taken from me for over a year, and we finally got to have a visit for 2 hours supervised, and then we would have a good couple weeks, and then it got into an actual schedule. But my mom would tell me that my son, 4 or 5-year-old him, would be nervous that he would get pukey or whatever. Because for one, you took him away from me when he was 3 years old, and then you told him all these lies, and then I get to see him and he's nervous. Yeah, but she was trying to convince me to just be like, oh, well, maybe, she did everything to make it seem like it was my fault. They're never about reunification. Nobody ever is.
What is your relationship like with your son? You still do not talk to him?
No, I haven't talked to him in 1,417 days.
Yeah, I don't bother to count how long we haven't talked to my husband's 2
aliens.
It's not.
I'm only doing that because I'm doing a Love On campaign right now. Right. I started a few months ago making daily dedication videos to the world, to my son. I'm the only one who's doing it. I've been trying to invite other people to do it. It's just to let the world know and my son know I love him, I miss him. Trying to give people courage to speak up. Again, I was silenced my whole life, so now I'm speaking up. I'm loud. I'm people don't like it that I'm so loud and that I'm so angry all the time. And those are my 2 major things that I am. And I tell people it's okay that I'm mad. It's okay if I want to be mad. You just got to own up to it. And at least I'm using my energy now for a good cause. I'm using it to end parental alienation. I'm using it towards the cause. So what if I'm mad? I should be mad. My kid was taken from me. I'm so tired of people telling me how I should be and how I feel when they should be upset with me along with me that my kid was taken. I don't get it. Work on yourself and be happy. No, motherfuckers, I need my kid back.
Yeah. You're counting your days. Well, you know, it's been 6,490 days today for me. And I don't count. It's just that Google reminds me every day there's another day that I should be grateful that I'm alive, because out of all this, my children would have watched their father stab me to death in the home that night. The police came and rescued me. Not that they had to. My ex called the police on me saying I uttered a death threat. So had the police not come and he found me in the home after he called the police, he would have killed me because he had a butcher knife in his hand. Now, my kids, this would have been the worst scenario for them to watch. Blood everywhere, knowing that their father killed their mom. So I stepped back. I stepped back so that the kids can heal from what they had to heal from, because they were used to lie to the police as well. That they heard.
Where are your kids now? Are they far away? Are they close by?
One's in Toronto, 30 minutes from me. The other one is in Montreal, 6 hours. And my son is in London, but he's with the Royal Canadian Navy. And the mistress called the Royal Canadian Navy and literally slammed me to them, that they won't even take a call to listen to me or give me any information about my son through the last 16 years. So the military is harboring, or the Royal Canadian is harboring my son, letting him mentally, emotionally fall apart. They're not helping him. My son is taking, what do you call that? Paintball shots to his bare skin, standing there, letting people shoot him. Why? Because he's hurting inside.
Because that
So
pain
they're
is worse
screening
than
your
the other
calls.
pain.
You call and you can't get through. Is that what it is?
No, they won't let me. They won't help me. Your son is a man. We can't give you information. And it's wrong.
Well, it kind of sounds like my style. I like to go do audits. I like to do protests. I like to expose them. Go outside and, like call them, stay on them, let them, not just you, like I call them, other people call them, like intervention. Intervention is what we need.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
But
you know what?
thank
So
you
I've got
so much.
something that I've just learned from the DOJ and the Department of and the Disability Department. That somebody's got something in the background.
Is that you, Echo?
Yeah, sorry, I started my vehicle. I'm gonna mute it.
Okay. So one of the things that I learned was when I went to keep reporting things to like the disability rights agencies or to the Department of Justice, they were saying they're taking the case, but they're saying they're not, that I need to show that we need to show a systemic problem. And so they've actually given us the key. What they're saying to us is that for the year of 2023, they are going to track every single phone call that comes in about cases in Connecticut with complaints about the judges or the family courts. They are tracking every single case that comes in about complaints about Massachusetts family courts. And they're looking to see if there are patterns in those states. If they see patterns in those states, they say it's a systemic state problem. If they start to look at it nationally, now they see more, there's all these states with the same problem. Now it becomes federally systemic issue. And that is how the DOJ steps in and looks. And that is how the separate disability rights and other agencies step in and look. You have to be able to we've got to get people each in all of our states to keep writing into the DOJ, if it's a disability rights issue or constitutional rights issue, write into those places. Keep reporting it. Everybody who has an issue, we've got to get all the reports in a year's time frame, because at the end of the year, they tally this all up. Now, are they comparing it to the year before? Of course they're going to. In the year before, sure. The problem is that it's been so sporadic with the reports, and then people weighing off because they don't want to report. So they have nothing to base the fact that all these cases and all these issues have been going on for 25 years, because it's too spread out over 25 years. We need to show that there's a systemic problem today now with all these reports going into the DOJ about the constitutional violations in the courts and the family courts, or the issues with the judges or whatever, by state. We've got to get the states to do it by state so that we get their attention for systemic state issues. And then we can look at federal. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes. And how do we go about doing all that?
You're going to reach out to everybody you know who's had a problem with the state, with the courts in your state.
And then we just get a big book of all their...
No. You have, each one of them must send in their own complaint.
Their own. Okay.
So as each person sends in the complaint, this is another tick, another tock, another tick-tock for the government to say, wait, there's more and more, and they start to see the pattern. Let's do it this way. You can't say it's parental alienation unless we've met certain criteria. There's got to be a pattern that we can see. The DOJ and all those agencies need the same thing. They need to see a pattern by independent reporting. I hope I'm making a lot of sense here.
Yes, you are.
So if everybody just tells their friends who've had problems with the courts, your experts, your advocates, anybody who's had a problem with the dysfunctional family courts in your state, have them write send a complaint in. And that's how we're going to get it noticed. That's how we'll get the feds and to recognize that there's an epidemic in our dysfunctional family courts.
Absolutely. So that's what we'll
Judy,
do.
I see your comment. Egos are the problem, unfortunately. Yes. When I've got judges who literally off the rick and say, well, I'm God and it's my word, we got a problem. Honey, you're not God. That's all I want to say to these judges. You're not God. Nobody is. Nobody could fill any spiritual entity's shoes like that. Not while you're living on this earth.
I had a judge that blurted out during my divorce saying to the ex, I don't know how much you paid that judge, but you can't pay me enough. We need more judges like that.
Yes, we do. We've had quite a couple of good judges here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
But every time we have a good judge,
a bad one takes over.
They get kicked out of the family courts to another court because some devious, nasty alienator finds a way to get the judge to have a mistrial or whatever. We've only ever gotten rid of one judge, Judge Emmons.
And that's the thing. Sorry, that's the thing. They get rid of the good and put in the evil. They get rid of the good parent and give it to the evil. They get rid of good judges, good lawyers. My lawyer got disbarred a month before my trial. But he was doing criminal activities. He got caught lying to a judge.
Yep.
He got caught lying to me. He told me my kids were not involved in the court case, that I was being stupid. He called me all kinds of bad names. And then next thing I know,
unusual, honey.
There's my 3 kids on the stand.
First of all, children should never, ever be allowed to testify, not unless we're talking a true physical abuse case, and then in which case they should still not be testifying in front of a group of public in public. They don't have the emotional mental maturity for this.
No, they still don't as adults.
Like I said, the human brain does not stop growing till age 25, and it doesn't stop maturing till age 35.
That is the truth.
So, look, could a 21-year-old testify? Absolutely. Okay, yes. Don't get me wrong. If they can vote, they probably could testify. But if their emotional mental maturity is stuck at the age when all the abuse began, they're not ready to make such a decision as momentous as to remove a parent from their lives.
That's right. And that's how I found I grew. I was 22, alienated from my father. I was 46 when I finally realized what was happening. I grew.
It's very sad.
And that's what happens to us.
Yep.
But thanks everybody out there. I mean, I've got we're into an hour and 40 minutes here. Is there anything that we missed, or anybody? Wendy, do you want to say something? Joan, are you finished?
Actually, I have one final thing that I think you guys might like.
Okay.
And I'm just going to see if I can pull it up. Yes, I can.
Okay.
This comes from a client that I worked with who was killed by the system, basically. No government or entity should be so powerful as to disrespect, ignore the laws, overpower, and violate the rights of the people.
Amen. Amen.
That's really where we're at, is these judges and the courts are an entity that thinks they can do whatever they want.
They're the creator. They're making the money. You know, us alienated parents are the fighters. We are the ones that they're hoping that the alienators will end up paying. They would rather spend their money in the court system than on our children, and then come after us to sue us for support, education, anything. This is what is happening. Us parents that had the money got broke because of them.
Mm-hmm.
And now the kids are calling us low life, deadbeats. I mean, how much do they want out of us? I mean, they sucked us dry.
It's not about sucking you dry. It's about being in control of you.
Right.
I will guarantee you that every one of you was the peacemaker, go with the flow, whatever you say, honey parent. It was a very yin yang relationship when you met. You were
that's too. Sorry for cutting you off. I like to call the exes the other party.
Right, you were
like
the
my
one.
parents.
Say what?
Because I was born. So everyone's talking about their exes, right? Pretty much. I call it the other party because it's my parents, my brother, my sister. I was born into abuse, and when I tell people that my parents are the one that took my kid, they're like, "You're crazy." They literally said, "You're crazy. There's no way your parents would do that to you." Not even knowing me or the story. Like, nope, parents don't do that to kids. That's just not the way it goes. And here it is.
It does. I haven't spoken to my mother in 7 years because she helped my sister take my grandson. So it does happen, and I totally understand that.
Well, thank you.
I just crazy stories I could tell you guys, but at any rate, back to what I was saying, that it was a very yin and yang relationship when you guys all met, you know, and not you as a grandmother, but as the kids had met. And one parent was to go with the flow. The other one was looking for somebody who was easy to control. The go with the flow was looking for somebody to take the controls. So it worked very well in the beginning until the day you stood up and took back that control. The day you said, and you disagreed and you didn't agree with them. That's the day all hell hit the fan. In 99% of my cases, this is the way it is. Not only that, but another very strong statistic that I see or pattern is that 99% of the people that do the alienating came from families that this is all they knew. This is all they learned. They didn't know any differently. The only role model they had was this. And I analogous it to this, and it's very easy to remember this way. If your whole life you're taught to walk backwards, and you get in the real world, and everybody's walking forward, well, everybody else has to be wrong, because if they're not, your whole entire life is a lie.
That's me. That's my life.
For alienators, they were raised to be that they had to be perfect, because if they're not perfect, then they're not lovable. If they're not lovable, they're going to be abandoned. If they're abandoned, they're alone. And this terrifies them. It is why they cannot go to therapy, at least under the premise of therapy, because only reason they can't go because then they have to admit they're not perfect. The only other reason they go is to prove that they are the perfect, better parent.
Yes.
So we can't treat, if we're going to treat alienators and we're going to apply proper therapy, it needs to encompass the whole family, even the alienator who needs to be in proper therapy, but it's not going to be called therapy. It's totally different. It's a totally different family type of therapy, where the alienator doesn't even notice that we're teaching them empathy and compassion. It is done in such small increments. They don't even realize it until all of a sudden they've got empathy and compassion. And now when they have that empathy and compassion, all these other issues are going to fall away because they don't match their new found heart and soul, if you want. Okay, their new happiness as being able to have empathy and compassion for others. No one's had it for them, so how can they know what it is?
That's right.
So one of the studies on research that I would like to get done is appropriate treatment for somebody who has a narcissistic personality. Because if this was a intact family, wouldn't we be looking for this type therapy for the family anyways?
Yes.
So unfortunately, we see it more prevalent in divorces than in an intact family because it's probably torn the family by the time we find out. But we still would be able to apply it and be able to try a different way. You can't use traditional family therapy in any of this stuff. It doesn't work.
It didn't work for me. I went to marriage counseling.
There's a reason. First of all, in traditional family therapy, we give all the power and control to the identified patient. Problem is, they keep making the child the identified patient instead of the targeted parent. The child is being controlled by the other parent. So who is actually getting the control in traditional therapy? The alienating parent. No, the identified parent needs to be the targeted parent.
Yes.
They're the ones who are the victim, if you will, of this attack and this cult-like attack upon them. So
you are so right. Because I remember when I went to marriage counseling and the ex stood there like he was so grandiose and arrogant. And even the therapist couldn't get through to him. So one session, the therapist said, we're going to start off by telling each other what we don't like about each other. Well, I got the start. And when I told him what I didn't like, he got mortified. He moved down the basement that night. The basement was 2 feet of water, but he still set up a bed and then started scheming, made up stories, telling the kids, Mom wouldn't let me in the bedroom, blah, blah, blah. 18 days later, I'm in prison. So this is what therapy did to us. We went to family therapy. We had family counseling for years because the children missed their father during the military career. I didn't know what to do other than give them the best support that they could possibly have. He told the kids they were being forced into something that they shouldn't be going to. So this is what the alienator has taught them, that therapy is bad.
Mary, I see a couple questions out here from El Papo. Look, these are really great questions, El Papo. But what I'd like to do is maybe, Mary, can we table this for another day and take some? Because I think it's getting late for me. I'm
2 hours almost, yes.
7:40 at night. I want my sleep.
Me too. Me too.
So,
I can't talk anymore. My voice hurts.
Yeah, and I've had a long day. And so, Papa, I would love to answer these. Mary, can you please save the chat? You and I will just go through the questions and comments out there, and I'll have Mary set up another time for us to all kind of get together again. Okay?
Perfect. Perfect. So does anybody else have something?
No, El Papo, don't be sorry. It's okay. I just caught your questions, but they're good questions, and they really need their own time to be discussed.
Yep.
Okay. They're
Yeah.
all, and David Bentley, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You're, you know, it's it's really the red flag or red herring or whatever you want to call it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mary, thank you so much for tonight.
You're welcome, Joan. Thank you. And Wendy, Echo, Antonella, everybody that came on. I mean, I've been doing this since 1 o'clock today. I've had multiple guests, and we all are in the same boat. We all have the same story, just different children. And I just want to say thanks to everybody out there that's listening, alienated parents, grandparents, children. Reach out to any of us that's been here on the podcast. Joan has her own link, and it's important that our professionals step forward stronger, because without our professionals' support, we're little people are not going further. It's amazing how we get railroaded for everything. It's like they put a bag on our heads and we have to find our way around the court system, and that's not fair. While the alienators are being fed the money, the children, the grandiosity, praising them for doing the right thing, but they're doing the wrong thing. So, but thank you.
We need to do something
we need to
different.
focus on the positive things that we can change and not the things we can't, because
Right.
the things we can change makes us feel safer, stronger, and we are more in control.
Right.
We have taken the control back, and that's
right.
the key. Look, the more control we have, the less control they have. The less control they have, the more out of control they get. To get the control back, the more obvious it becomes who the problem is.
I just want to
and
add
that's why we
to
get the
there's
Sorry.
you do have to look up your area, but it's not illegal to protest your alienators and abusers. There's nothing illegal about it.
No, it's not. That's not how you're going to change things. That has been the biggest problem with the claiming that the reunification programs are camps for brainwashing. So I would not advise camping out in front of your alienator's house. I would not advise.
But I'm not just camping out. I'm doing lots of different things. And everybody can do what they want.
Is great, Echo. You're going to get more headway going to your legislators, having support.
Going to legislators. Sorry for cutting you off, but I haven't been getting very far. And I'm going to do everything that I can. But protesting, I raise awareness too, and I let people know on their streets what kind of people are on their street.
No, that's actually, you're going to get arrested for defamation, slander, and perjury.
No, ma'am. No, and I've done my research. The cops have already been called. I've been doing this for years. I'm not afraid of cops, and that's the best part. The cops don't do nothing for me or for them. There's nothing the cops can do. The cops really drove by today. They don't even stop anymore. They just drive by to make sure it's peaceful. I live in the state capital, Salem, Oregon. I can legally use a bullhorn in this county. I can go to the courthouse. I can go to parks.
We can't do that. You have to have a permit or permission here.
No, I don't. Oh, well, in some places you do. You're right. Absolutely, depending on what you're doing. But right now, because of COVID, nobody needs a freaking permit in this area.
Dolores says awareness and education is the key. Yes, we need to focus more on that, spend more time educating and awareness of the rest of the world, because these people, you're not going to ever change their mind unless they get an epiphany. So unless they get an epiphany,
I'm not trying to change their mind.
Your wheels and making the neighbors pissed.
I'm not changing their minds. I know I can't change their mind.
So
that's not what I'm doing, though.
I would rather see you focus in more productive ways, like working on legislation. Focus your energy.
I am so trying. I need help. I even got a law from.
That's why we're doing a legislative conference, so you can.
And I'm all about it. I'm all about it. But I'm still going to do protests because it feels really good for my heart, and it's really good for healing, believe it or not. And the closure I'm never going to get, they're going to ignore me. So I have to expose them.
What do you think your child thinks when you're standing outside of his parents' home, outside his
He's going to know that I'm crazy, screaming for my son. I was always silent, and now I'm screaming for him. And if he thinks that I'm so crazy that I'm outside letting my son know that I love him, then so be it. I want my son to know that I'm going to try. I'm never going to give up. I want to be outside the house, and I'm never going to stop. And that's what I want him to know. I already don't have him. I already didn't have him. I already lost his childhood. And people ask me that
How
before. They're
often
like,
do you pick it outside their house?
well, last time I went was in February, and I did a 3-day protesting spree, and I haven't gone until today.
Okay. It's not my, I have a couple of people I've seen get arrested for it here in Connecticut. So it's not
my husband has been arrested for doing illegal stuff because cops do what they want.
I get why you're doing it. Totally get it. I don't. You.
If I get arrested for a cop like that, so be it.
Right.
I'm not doing anything illegal. In fact, last month a lady came out, pushed all my stuff to the ground. The cops came and didn't do anything to her at all. The cops won't do nothing. I can do whatever I want. I'm not doing anything illegal. As long as I don't do anything illegal, they're not going to do anything to me. The neighbors came out and pushed me.
Okay, on that note,
it's embarrassing for your son because he sees you're out there and he sees that the neighbors don't like you're out there. He's embarrassed, and you need to consider him.
No. The neighbors are pretty sympathetic. When I first started going, they didn't like it because they didn't know, but they're pretty sympathetic now. And a lot of people told me, thank you for speaking up. And I want my son to know that I'm not going to be silent, and that I want him to know that I tried and that I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to protest outside their house.
Made a difference with the neighbors. That's really good. It's really good that you made a difference with the neighbors. And it might be because the cops didn't stop you for once. That's very possible. But it's going to come down to changing the laws and educating.
You're right. And I'm all about it. And I need help. And I'm trying and I'm learning. And I've been trying to ask people for help. If the news would ever
come out, have you ever gotten a news reporter to come out and do a report
about somebody,
how many times you've had to come to this home and stand here to tell your son how much you love him? I don't know. If the neighbors are in agreement with you, that's great. But I
don't care if the neighbors are in agreement with me or not. I'm still going to do it because it's what's right.
All right, I get it. I get why you're doing it. Don't get me wrong. I get it.
Echo.
And I get that people are worried about me getting arrested, but I know my rights and I know legally what I can and can't do. So if I get arrested for legally protesting, so be it. So what? I'm not going to do anything illegal.
I'm just more worried about if your son's been convinced that you're a crazy lunatic and you're dangerous, or that this is embarrassing. How could she do this to you? That's my concern. I don't know how your son is handling it. And that's the concern.
I don't know either. I have no idea. He's told to ignore, just like they do. So I'm going to scream, crazy for credence. I want him to know. I want somebody that knows him, somebody that heard me talk about it. Somebody down the line is going to be like, hey, we've seen your crazy mom yelling for you. What's up with that? And he already isn't with me. And if he's embarrassed by me, my bad. You know what? I'm doing it because of
That's
him.
Okay. I get it.
And if
so long as you are willing to stand by that, then I'm good with it. Okay, because
I've done so much self-reflection work. I'm a little cocky.
Yeah. Trust me, I've been doing this for many, many years, 35. But I understand where you're coming from, that this is what you feel is getting you results and what you need to do. And you know what? So long as you stand by what you're doing and the reasoning you're using, okay. It's not the traditional way. You're right. Maybe non-traditional is going to open your son's eyes. It's not going to open necessarily the rest of the world, but it would open maybe it'll open your son's eyes.
You know what got me is I thought about it. I'm like, well, what if my son comes out and says like, hey, can you please stop or something? I'm not going to stop because I'm doing it for him.
Has he ever?
No. They do, but not him.
I just want to think about that for a second. He's had many opportunities to be able to come out.
He doesn't live there. He's away at college, but he can come back. He can come back for visits and stuff. But I'm not supposed to know that he's away at college.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
That's why you don't know how he's handling it, because they may not be telling him it's going on.
Right. Exactly. And even if he is embarrassed and all that, I hope that'll be a reason for him to come talk to me at least. Say, Mom, stop. Yeah, or anything. And then also too, like, this is, I know I'm kind of moving around, but like, what?
Do you know what college he's at?
College? What
What
college? Is that?
college?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. But he could be graduating this year for all I know, but I won't know.
Have you
There's
tried
no way
to
of me
send
knowing.
him a card, a gift card, anything?
Yeah, I gave a money order not too long ago, and I don't send it to his college because I'm not supposed to know. I send it to my parents' house, and they don't cash it. They don't cash it. They don't do nothing. They ignore everything.
Okay, so he's
I've
not
tried
getting
texting
them.
him.
He's
I've
not
tried
getting them.
no,
The point
Mm-mm.
of doing it at the college would be, you know, is there a court order that says you're not supposed to know where he's going to school?
No, he's of age. No, I just haven't figured that part out yet. I was thinking about going there and putting like some money
Okay, so
down.
what
and then
you can do is you can
credit.
there are ways to get around things. Or you have to find out what his mailing address is there, so you can send something and get it delivered to him, like a card with a gift card in it, maybe. You know, you've got all these money orders you've sent, and he hasn't used. What I suspect has happened, they're not getting cash because they're in his name. They're not. They burnt them, thrown them out, whatever.
Right.
So that money is probably still sitting there that you paid for all those money orders. I would recoup them. Find out how good a money order is too. Recoup the money that hasn't been cashed, that is now no longer, it has expired on the money order. Redo it and see if we can figure out how you can get it to him at the college, whether it be by an email or calling up and saying, look, I want to put some money on my son's food account or book account. Can you just let me, how do I do that? Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about actually driving there one day and seeing if I could do something about that. I haven't thought about calling them and doing it. I was just going to drive down there the hour and just figure it out. But I thought about it. Yeah.
No. Does he know what
Okay, ladies.
All right,
I
time up.
I have to
we
end
could have
this.
been talking about El Papo's thing here.
We will do another one.
Right.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
I can't believe how fast time goes. Oh my God.
Yes. I am so sorry. We got sidetracked because of what she's using, which is not a traditional method to reach out to her.
No.
Yeah,
but you know,
I'm very
not one I would typically advise. She's in a position where she can kind of get away with it. It is not something I would typically advise doing because it can get you in trouble and arrested.
Yeah. And
only if you do it wrong. I think everybody should do it as unity. Sorry, Mary.
But I sympathize with Echo because I've been doing it too. I don't stop at nothing. I have the truth. I have nothing to fear. They want to put me back in prison. Good luck, because the Crown literally withdrew another criminal charge against me 21 days after my trial ended because the mistress didn't like a picture I posted. Well, you know what? The Crown threw it out because had I gone to court, judges would have been exposed, lawyers would have been exposed, my children would have been exposed and perjured. So,
all right, Mary really needs to get going. She can barely talk. She's choking over here.
To be continued. I want to do this again so many times. Yes. Thank you, you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Night. And don't jump off. We're going to end the show. Good night, alienated parents, grandparents, children. Don't give up. We are here. Good night.
Good night.